Hi, Dr. George Yancey. Let's share some paradigms. And the paradigm I want to share today is about identity politics. Now, we've heard this term a lot, so I want to spend this video really enunciating what it is, talking a bit about it, where it came from, how it's impacting us today, and then at the very end, I'll talk about Christians and identity politics, setting up further discussions. So first, identity politics. You've probably heard that term. What you may not know is where it came from and how it developed. To understand that, we need a little bit of a history lesson. So if you go back to the early part of the 1900s, the leftist movement was really focused in on a Marxian ideology. The idea on the left was we are doing politics to develop this utopian Marxian perspective where everyone's going to share and we're going to have a wonderful life. Well, the problem with that emerged, especially after World War II, because after World War II, Russia, they basically showed a lot of people where communism led, and they didn't like that. And it became harder and harder on the left to sort of push this sort of Marxian vision. So they had to find a new way to organize themselves politically. And around the 50s and 60s, this began to emerge. What the left began to do is it began to focus not as much on the Marxian vision, although that was still there, but more on how to advocate for groups that are defined as minorities, groups that are defined as oppressed. This became identity politics. So a definition of identity politics is politics organized the advocating for oppressed groups. And that identity of those oppressed groups, that becomes sort of the source of your political activism. So there you have identity politics that had developed. But was it really going anywhere? Probably not that much through the 60s, although that was a big decade for the left. In the 70s and 80s, you had sort of the counterattack from the right, Reaganism, and then Bush won. What really was interesting as far as understanding identity politics today is the year 2012. Now, why is that year important? There's a couple of articles out there that show that 2012, there's this uptick in the media and in academia on attention towards words surrounding prejudice, racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, Islamophobia, so forth and so on. I do not know why this occurred at that point in time. Now, I'm not saying 2012 was the exact year it happened. I mean, it was recorded in 2012. It probably happened a few years before. I don't know why. I think that's a really interesting research project. Maybe one day I'll tackle it, but I don't know why. But it happened. And with all this attention to all these terms of prejudice, you saw more and more attention to identity politics. Now, it didn't really manifest itself in the larger society right away. But then we have things such as Trayvon Martin. We have things such as the Me Too movement. You see this rise of attention of we're organizing our politics based on our identity. And this was a major push in the left. Now, to be fair, around 2016, when Trump became president for the first time, what we saw was a rise of identity politics on the right. What Trump appealed to, one of the things he appealed to, I'm not saying this is the only thing, one of the things he appealed to was the identity of European Americans and, yes, of Christians. He talked about defending them, about how they are now the oppressed group. And that really turns into identity politics on the right. And Trump won based upon that. And I would argue that his victory in 2024 reinforced this identity politics on the right. It may manifest itself a little bit differently than on the left, but it's definitely there. And so now what we have in our society today is not an agitation for a large-scale solution, which Marxism was. Like it, hate it, the Marxian solution was a large-scale solution for everyone. Consequently, laissez-faire capitalism, once again, love it, hate it, was a large-scale solution for everyone. Right now what we have instead is this constellation of identity politics on the left and this constellation of identity politics on the right fighting each other, saying who's the most oppressed, who deserves what, why they don't deserve this, why we should get that. That is where our argument today is. Now, obviously there are problems with our political system no matter who makes it up. But I do believe there's a unique problem in identity politics, and I will flesh that out in another video. Here's what I want to say about Christians and identity politics. We have seen the emergence of Christians' identity politics, especially on the right. And a lot of the same problems that many people rightly pointed out with identity politics on the left can be said of Christian identity politics on the right. And so, as a Christian, one of the things that I want to talk about, one thing I want to emphasize is, as we engage in politics, and I'm not saying we shouldn't engage in politics, but as we engage in politics, are we doing it in a way that's glorifying to God or glorifying to ourselves and our own group? Does this shatter some paradigms? Some paradigms of identity politics? Had you thought about it in one way, and this sort of shows how it could be something else? And how it may have penetrated the right, and now the right's engaged in some same problems on the left? Well, if it did, then maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes paradigms need to be shattered. You know what I want? I want you to like. I want you to subscribe. I want you to comment. Please do these things. Tell people about this. If you find this video interesting, tell others about it who you think might find it interesting. That's how word of mouth gets around. So I appreciate if you can do that. That's all I ask. And I hope you come back where we shatter some more paradigms.